Picture a man dating a gorgeous woman. He gave her everything. He'd bring her coffee in the morning, text her goodnight without fail, and remind her how beautiful she was even when she didn't ask. He didn't miss a birthday, never forgot a detail, always made time for her, no matter how busy he was. And yet, she started to pull away. At first, it was subtle. Slower replies, less excitement in her voice. Then came the excuses. The "I've been really tired lately," or "just need some space to figure things out." Meanwhile, he's left sitting there wondering what he did wrong. You see it in the guy who buys gifts too early, the one who tells her you're the one 2 weeks in, the one who puts her on a pedestal so high she starts looking down on him. He thinks he's doing everything a good man should, but he doesn't realize that certainty, when given too easily, kills attraction. Women say they want a man who's open with his emotions, who's not afraid to be vulnerable, a man who knows how to love, and yet, the moment she feels she's completely won him, something changes inside her. That fire, it fades, that tension, gone. Why? Because her brain no longer has to work. There's no unknown, no chase, no question, and yet she ends up obsessed with a guy who didn't try too hard, had their own life, and didn't revolve around her. Not because they were playing games, but because they had standards, direction, and control. And suddenly, she's the one checking her phone. She's the one refreshing Instagram. She's the one wondering if she said something wrong. The power dynamic flips. Not because he was rude or dismissive, but because he didn't hand over all his value on a silver platter. It's the mistake nice guys make all the time. They confuse consistency with attraction. They think more attention means deeper connection. More effort means stronger bond. But in reality, when you give too much too fast, you don't seem confident. You seem desperate. And desperation kills desire. This isn't about being cold. It's about being controlled. The man who moves slowly, who doesn't reveal all his cards, who makes her earn each step. That man becomes valuable, not because he's manipulative, but because he knows his worth. Your attention has to be earned, not thrown around like free samples. Because if she didn't have to work for your love, she won't know how to keep it. There are men everywhere right now, wondering why she ghosted them after 3 perfect dates. Why she stopped laughing at their jokes. Why she said, "You're such a good guy," right before disappearing. And the answer is brutally simple. She got you too easily. She didn't have to fight for you. And in her mind, that means you weren't worth fighting for. Here is a guy who had the life most men dream of. Luxury cars, a penthouse overlooking the city, a wardrobe filled with designer suits and watches worth more than most people's yearly salary. He walked into rooms and heads turned. Not just because of how he looked, but because of what he represented. Success, power, control. And then he met her. Beautiful, mysterious. The kind of woman who doesn't flinch when a man flashes wealth, because she's used to it. And that's where everything started to unravel. At first, she was impressed. Dinner on rooftop restaurants, private jets to weekend getaways, expensive gifts just because. But over time, something changed. Her laughter became softer. Her texts took longer to reply. She stopped dressing up when they went out, until one day she simply disappeared. No goodbye, no fight, just silence. He was left confused, bitter, angry. How could she leave someone like me? I gave her everything. And that was exactly the problem. He gave her everything, without boundaries, without restraint. Not because she earned it, but because he believed that the more he gave, the more she would stay. But here's the uncomfortable truth. When a man places a woman above himself, when he makes her the center of his world, he loses something far more valuable than money. He loses respect, because no matter how rich or powerful you are, if you act like she's a prize you have to keep winning over with gifts and attention, you tell her, subconsciously, that she is above you. And women don't want to look down at their man. They want to look up to him. They want to feel chosen, not worshipped, desired, not obsessed over. What this man didn't understand was that masculinity isn't about what you can buy. It's about what you withhold, what you protect, what you choose not to give until it's earned. Every time she crossed a boundary, he let it slide. Every time she acted cold, he responded with more gifts. He thought he was fighting for love, but in her eyes, he was just trying to buy her approval. That's not love, that's desperation. In a Gucci suit. You see, It's not about the car you drive or the money you have. It's about your sense of self. Are you the kind of man who values his time, energy, and presence? Or are you just another fool who thinks love can be bought? Let this be a warning. Even if you have everything, if you give her everything too soon, you'll be left with nothing. And she won't even feel guilty, because in her mind, you were never a man she had to earn. You were a man she could control. Think about that. Before you make her the queen of a castle she didn't build, before you offer the throne, make sure she deserves the crown. Because the moment you forget your value, she will too. And once that happens, she's already gone. There's a strange truth about human nature, and it goes far beyond gender. It's not just women, it's all of us. We don't value what's always available. We chase what slips away. We become obsessed with what we almost have, but not quite. But here's the twist. When it comes to romantic relationships, this psychology hits harder on one side, and it's men who suffer most from not understanding it. Think about it. You give her your time, your attention, your heart. Every moment she asks, you're there. You text her good morning before she wakes up. You say yes even when you're tired. You cancel plans just to see her. You believe that love means being everything for her, but what you become is nothing to her. Because women aren't wired to love what's easy. They fall in love with presence. But only when that presence has value, and value only exists when there's cost. A man who's always there, no matter what, no matter how she behaves, no matter how she treats him, becomes a man who costs nothing. And what costs nothing is treated like nothing. You see, love isn't a charity. It's an exchange of value. Not financial value, psychological value. When a man offers his affection like a faucet, constant and overflowing, it becomes background noise. She stops hearing it, she stops feeling it, and eventually she starts looking for silence, for space, for the man who isn't always available. Why? Because space creates mystery. Mystery creates curiosity. And curiosity is the seed of desire. Let's go deeper. Philosopher Jacques Lacan believed that desire is born not from possession, but from lack. That we don't desire what we have. We desire what's just out of reach. And women, whether they realize it or not, are driven by this unconscious pull. They say they want a man who's always there. But emotionally, they become addicted to the one who isn't. Not because they're toxic, but because unpredictability creates meaning. It forces them to pay attention, to work, to prove themselves. And when a woman has to earn a man's love, she cherishes it more. So if you give her everything before she's even chosen you, you rob her of the one thing that would have made her stay, the need to chase you. You were never supposed to hand over your soul in the first chapter. You were supposed to be the reward, not the welcome mat. Some men never recover. Not because she left, but because he truly believed she was his. But here's a brutal truth. She was never yours. You were just living inside a moment she created. A moment that felt real, but wasn't meant to last. You see, a woman can share her body, her laughter, her secrets. She can cry in your arms and whisper that no one understands her like you do. And still, walk away like it meant nothing. Because in her world, it did mean something. In that moment. But feelings are not contracts, they're winds. They change direction without warning. And if you don't understand this, you'll be destroyed by what you thought was love. The tragedy is, most men confuse intensity with permanence. The late night calls, the passionate texts, the "I've never felt this before," all of it feels like forever. But it isn't. Because feelings are seasonal. And when the season changes, so does her heart. You gave her everything, not out of weakness, but because you believed. You believed in the dream, the story where love is enough. But she wasn't reading the same book. You were building a future. She was experiencing a phase. She didn't lie. She didn't deceive. She simply moved on, once the emotional high wore off. This is what most men don't realize. To many women, connection is an experience, not a destination. They don't own love. They feel it. And when the feeling fades, they let go. So when you cry, wondering how could she forget me so fast, the answer is brutal. She didn't forget you. She just doesn't need you anymore. And that's the part that breaks men, because men love with investment. Time, energy, sacrifice. They build something, but women often love with experience. If the experience no longer feeds her emotionally, she detaches. And here's the real warning. The more you try to remind her of what you had, the more you chase, beg, explain, show her your worth, the deeper she runs, because now you're clinging to something that no longer feels alive to her, and that repels her. Understand this. You were not in a shared love story. You were in her season, a chapter she closed the moment it stopped thrilling her. And when you finally wake up from the illusion, remember this. You were real. Your love was real, but to her, it was just a moment. And moments don't last. They pass, like a dream at sunrise. Gone, but still haunting. At first, it feels like abandonment. She ghosted. She changed. She replaced you like you were just a page in her diary, scribbled, read, and tossed. You thought it was betrayal? But what if it was liberation? What if her leaving wasn't the end, but the beginning? Not a punishment, but an unveiling. Because now, stripped of the illusion, you see who she really was, and who you really are. See, heartbreak is not just pain, it's clarity. It forces you to look at yourself, to question why you loved so deeply, why you gave so much, why you ignored the warning signs in her eyes, and why your worth was tied to her staying. Let that sink in. Her absence is teaching you something her presence never could, that your soul was never meant to beg, that your value isn't confirmed by her texts, her attention, or her approval, and that the silence she left behind is the space where you rebuild. Now you face the mirror. No more lies, no more delusions, no more hoping she'll come back and make it all feel okay again. She won't, and she shouldn't, because something better is waiting. Not another woman. Not yet. But you. The version of you that doesn't need to be chosen to feel enough. The version that doesn't collapse when someone leaves. The version that understands. Sometimes, being left is life pulling you out of your own self-abandonment. You gave her love. You gave her loyalty. But now, you give yourself something more important. Freedom. And maybe that was the point all along. If this hits something inside you, something raw, something unspoken, then you're exactly the man this channel was made for. Subscribe. Not for me. For you. Because the path ahead is long, and you shouldn't walk it alone.